Welcome to the Leadership Roundtable, Episode 7. I am here with three of my favorite people in the world, and I'll tell you why as we progress through this session. So, Anthony, Searcy, Philippe, Bruce, and Jack. I will always butcher your last name, so I'm going to leave it at Jack. So I want to start off with some introductions. Anthony, if you want to kick it off, tell everybody who you are and how they can find you.
Sure. My name is Anthony Searcy. I live down in St. Augustine, Florida. I work for a company called Maximum Independent Brokerage. I am what's known as an insurance wholesaler. I specialize in transportation insurance. So my call points are the insurance agents, but you can contact me directly. I'm happy to work with you. Anything from last mile delivery, fleets of big rig trucks, panel vans, hotshot operations. I'll talk to you about anything commercial insurance related, period. The best way to find me is either give me a call. My office number is 904-801-1236, or you can reach me by email. My email address is my first name, Anthony, my last initial S, at maxib.com. So that's Anthony S at maxib.com.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll be sure to put all that in the comments of this video and everywhere you find this on social media as well. Mr. Bruce.
Hi, my name is Philipe Bruce, and I am a cybersecurity professional by trade, but I also run a nonprofit and I'm a citizen diplomat now. The whole citizen diplomacy thing started with my nonprofit, mainly because I started running into a lot of powerful people, and I was able to use those connections to connect those powerful people with the I won't call them average Joe, but the people that normally will not have the opportunity to connect with those powerful people. And I've done that locally and on the world stage. You can find me online if you Google me, Philippe Bruce with one L and one P. It says Philipe, last name Bruce like Bruce Lee. You can miss it. You will find me somewhere.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Mr. Jack.
I'm Jack Beguedou, also known in some area as the Hood Sommelier. So by trade on a daily, I actually do what my mentor that is on the call, Mr. Anthony Searcy, does. I'm an insurance agent, focus more on personal insurance. So instead of commercial, more car, home, auto, and life insurance. But by night, I teach people how to enjoy the spirit, from anything that is distilled, from vodka all the way to scotch, or anything that is ever distilled. I can sit down, teach you, and talk about. So by day, I'm known as Jack Beguedou, and by night, I'm the Hood Sommelier.
You know, Jack, since we've talked last, I've got an idea that I'm going to put you on the spot since you really can't say no right now. I would love to host a separate show, not a leadership roundtable per se, but maybe a casual conversation where you and I, from about 1,000 miles apart, can just talk through some spirits. I've got a shelf full of unopened bottles. As you know, I'm either a Tito's guy,
okay,
or Woodford Reserve. And so I would love to sit around and have a conversation with you sometime that I think people would be interested in watching.
Oh, yeah. I can even do you one better. I'll actually maybe send you some samplers so we can go through and teach people what's the difference between each different spirit, because you just talked about two different spirits, but that are interesting on their own, from vodka all the way to bourbon or the American spirit. So I would love to come in and really teach the folks. Anthony had a chance to see firsthand how I maneuver spirits, and I think he was a proud dad that day.
Oh, just so very impressed. Yeah, he's good at what he does, and he's respected in the industry.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised.
Second in the world.
So, Jack, did you want to lead off with your quote?
Yes. So I have this segment on my channel. You can find it on Instagram or my YouTube, Hood Sommelier. That's HOOD, like the hood, and sommelier, like a wine sommelier, SOMMELIER, that I call Wisdom from Africa. I believe things that we've learned as growing up in a different country transcend into our daily life, even if you're in another country. So I have wisdom from Africa that I bring up. New season is starting next month, but I bring it up once a week, where I try to teach you something that my grandmother told me either when she was crazy, drunk, or just wanted to teach me a lesson after doing something stupid. And the one I thought about for our conversation is he who has diarrhea is not afraid of the dark. And I only thought about that quote because I was having a conversation about going through a tough time, and my aunt in Africa kept telling me that tough times happen, and your focus is as important or is as high as your necessities. So if you really need something, if something is a dire need, regardless of how hard things are right now or how complex a situation looks, you will find a way. The same way, if you really got to go, you got to go. So you will find a way.
That's awesome. So, my wife is going to be furious that I shared this story, but I was traveling, and I come back, and I'm with the kids in the car, and I look, and I like, any idea why there's a roll of toilet paper in the back seat? And kids said, "Yep." Mom needed it. She's a softball coach, and turns out they don't stock the porta potties. So mom took it with her softball practice. So, Anthony, you will know if Rachel watched this, because I will be coming down to take up one of those rooms that you've got down there.
St. Augustine, come on down. We have plenty of room. That's hilarious.
I'm going to get you a care package for the couch, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, I tease her a lot because she actually doesn't watch any of my stuff, really. And then in one of the videos where, I had teased her to the point where she's like, fine, I'm going to go watch this stuff. I actually said something that I said, somebody called me out on something, like, oh, don't let your wife hear that. I'm like, I'm safe. And then I get a random text message one day with that sentence. I'm like, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. And then I realized, oh, she watched that video. So we'll see. Thank you, Jack. That for as much humor as there is there's a lot of truth to that quote as well. So the next quote that I picked, I want to share, but before I do, I want to tell a story, and the story is relevant to at least 3 of us on this call, potentially 4.
Okay.
So, what I want to tell everybody, how do we know each other? And we all know each other because of Anthony Searcy. And Jack hinted about his mentor, and I will tell you that I have looked up to Anthony since the very first day I met him, and to the point that I actually considered a career change at one point. I wanted to follow Anthony in insurance, and my wife Rachel looked at me very clearly one day and said, "You're no Anthony Searcy."
Yeah.
Wow.
Nowadays, Anthony, you're like right here, every day.
Yeah. So Anthony and I have shared some good laughs over the years. And the one that cracks me up that I will never forget is anytime I see a Dodge minivan, it reminds me of Anthony. I don't know if you remember this, but your predecessor in my insurance life
Yep.
called me. Oh, hi. How are you?
Good.
Very nice to see you.
This is Ryan.
Hi.
Well,
Do you recognize these other guys?
do you know any of the guys? I don't know. No? Okay. Did you have fun riding? You do good today? Good. Okay.
That is awesome.
Oh, Isla. Well, there you go. We have number 2.
Oh boy.
Isn't this funny,
Yeah.
Anthony, to see Phil as a dad?
Yeah. No, Jack, not just a dad, a girl dad.
Yeah. Not just a dad, a girl dad.
A girl dad.
That's
know,
awesome.
there is a saying in Africa that say, baby pig ask mama pig, why is your nose so long?
Mama's gonna open
Mama
me.
pig said, just wait.
Great.
Just wait.
Yeah. The wisdom from Africa never stops.
Yes, man. I
So
think I'm the only one on the podcast that has a boy.
yeah,
Now,
Yeah.
I have 3 girls, but I have 1 boy.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
so Philippe, what is your daughter's name?
The oldest is Ryan, and the youngest is Isla.
How do you spell it?
Ryan is the French spelling Rayan, and Isla is just, it's like island without the end part.
Oh, okay.
ISLA. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my daughter is Ayla, Ayla. So
Yeah,
yeah.
we had a 2-minute argument about spelling Isla correctly, and I dropped it.
That's awesome. So the quote, and well, first I want to say, Philippe, thank you for allowing the kids to come in and say hi to you, because I have so many guests who get so nervous about that, and I'm like, this is a family show. I don't cuss. We don't really talk about anything awkward, unless it's me telling a dumb story.
Let me tell you one quick story. I was on a conference call with my CEO, COO, like it was all of the big wigs. I'm like explaining all of this program. This was my first 100 days on the job, explaining what I was going to do, the program I was going to build. And Ryan runs in and was like, oh, it jumps right in front of the camera. I was like, Dad, we bought you underwear. Yeah, you can't top that. I mean, I had no time to press the mute, nothing. It just, I'm like, oh, okay, well, thank you. And then she's like, oh yeah, you should look at it. They're colorful. Oh, thank you.
Lovely.
Oh my God, that's great. That is great.
Awesome.
So I just made it a point. After that, I was like, you know what? If they jump in front of the camera, it's fine, and it's just, completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can avoid it.
No,
I will have my time embarrassing them.
and it's real life, and that's when I was talking about how, I use a cheap headset and I try to keep it low key. Yeah, that's the whole reason. Is I think so many people are afraid to go after their dreams because of all these tiny little things in their life. They're like, well, I don't have this and I don't have that. And I think, to heck with it. From the IT perspective, we use a methodology that's MVP, minimum viable product. And I say, just start, just do something. And which is actually not a bad, it's not a great lead in, but it's not a bad lead in for my quote. And my quote is, well done is better than well said. And for me, what I like about this quote, and it's attributed to Benjamin Franklin, but I will tell you, I have not vetted that. I do not know that he actually said that. But there's so much talk, and I kind of alluded to this, where you have all these influencers, or whatever you want to call them, who are out there telling people how they should be, and how they can be successful. And I just said one day, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to launch a YouTube channel. I'm going to create content for the social media that hopefully inspires and motivates people to want to live a better life and to get out there and chase it. And so this quote kind of stood out to me. And of course, the reason that I picked it today was it's also one that reminds me of Anthony Searcy, who and I won't share too much about your life. I'll let you share the stories, but I know enough about you to know that life hasn't been as easy as you've made it look. But you always have such a great attitude about everything, and it's you've kind of been like a big brother to me, and always offering me advice and feedback and suggestions. And so when I knew that I had you guys locked in for this, that was one of the quotes that stood out to me, was, well done is better than well said. So with that, Anthony, I'll pass the mic back to you.
I really appreciate the compliments. Thank you very much. I've always tried to live my life by a saying I once heard, and that saying was, be the difference that you want to see in the world. And everything that I've ever done for anyone, whether it be Bruce or Jack or you, it never had anything to do with me. I can remember the interaction with you and I where we met, John, and you talked about the issues that you were having and why you wanted to come over and talk to me. And it had nothing to do with me. I just wanted to be the insurance agent that you deserve. I wanted to be the man that you needed in your life. Whether I was your insurance agent or not, I tried to take the tack that everybody that I met, I wanted to be a friend to them. So much so that if you ever saw anyone in my family in desperate need, because of the interactions that we had, you would be more than likely to stop and help my family. Again, it's not about me. I really appreciate the compliment that you gave me, and hopefully I did a good job. And it sounds like I did, because you're giving me compliments even to this day. I can remember the very first time that I met Jack Beguedou. I met Jack Beguedou on a Saturday morning going to get gas for a pressure washer I borrowed from somebody. And I sat in line watching him interact with clients. Now, I hadn't opened my insurance agency yet. I was in the beginning parts of that. I was still in training with State Farm at the time, and I needed to find staff members. And I saw this guy who was very, very good at customer service. I knew he probably didn't know a lot about insurance, but if you think of this, another thing that I heard, if the object of your company is to climb trees, would you rather hire squirrels or train horses? Jack knew customer service. He just didn't know insurance. I could teach him insurance. And when I came back and proposed to him that I would have a job for him that I thought he would be really good at, he was so skeptical. And I realized that now that we became friends, what made him so skeptical, because everybody in his life up to then, whenever they had a handout, they had another handout wanting something back in return. And he just kept saying to me, you are so weird. You are so strange. You're the strangest person I've ever met in my life. But I think that strangeness imparted something in him that made him change a little bit in the way that he thought about people and their willingness to come forth and give you something without asking for anything in return. And that's all I've ever done. The one thing that your quote that you put up said, I can relate this to my kids, specifically my daughters, being a dad of girls. I always wanted them to see what a real man was like. I wanted them to know what it was like to be with someone that didn't just pay lip service, but actually showed you through their actions what it was like to be a good dad, what it was like to be a good husband, in the way that I interacted with my wife, in the way that I interacted with them. And then all of a sudden I had a son, and I had to tell him, life's going to be a little bit tougher for you because a lot of people are going to look to you to just get stuff done. And you can't really have any excuses. It's tough to say, but dads don't have a lot of off days because everybody's counting on you financially, for wisdom, that shoulder to cry on. You're the one that's supposed to make everything better. But even with him, I tried to show him through my actions what it was like to be a good dad, to be a good leader of the household. And I said, I could tell you whatever I wanted, but if I didn't follow that through with my actions, none of it really mattered. So you very rarely hear me saying things, but you always see me doing things. And that's just kind of the way I've learned to live my life.
Well, I can speak for myself, and I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for these guys too. Well done, because you put the action behind the words. In fact, I think you put the action in front of the words. And so anyway, Jack, I'll pass the mic off to you next.
I can personally say I remember the first time while I was working for Anthony, one of the things he said, we are, obviously we are in sales, and when somebody bring you on and wants you to be a salesperson, in your mind, you're trying to justify and explain what you're doing. Anthony may not say this, but one of the best quote I ever heard him say is, don't tell me about the labor pain, show me the baby. Right. And And it is one of those things that you hear it and you're like, okay, that's kind of rude. I want to tell you the process. But as a man teaching another man to go after what they want, he was 100% right. And I apply that a lot in my life. Even my fiance sometimes will tell me, you have a whole plan in your head. I would love to know a little bit about it. And the biggest argument we always have is, you didn't tell me this was going to get done. And I say, it's my job. I'm going to do it. I don't need to tell you why and explain the ins and out, but I want to show you the result, because the result, the end will justify the means. I just need to tell you where we're going. As long as you trust me that we got to get there, whatever it takes, we are going to get there. So my actions are going to speak way louder than my words. And I already have an accent, and my immigrant threats kicks in when I get too excited. So I might as well just do it so I can show you. But truly, I live by that. I don't talk about the labor pain. I will show you the baby, so you believe in what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
You know, your career is proof of it, because in everything I've seen you do, you just dig in and you win. And I'm proud of you for that. And I think obviously Anthony has taught you well. So,
Oh yeah, one good story that shows, Anthony may not remember this, is I stopped school. Unlike Phil, Phil actually did really well on his school pattern. He started and then he kept going. Me, I stopped. When I was working for Anthony, I did 2.5 years in college and I stopped because I was a dad and I had 2 jobs and I just needed to make the money to support my family. But after 2 years of working for Anthony, he looked at me and said, I see where you're going, but as a young Black man trying to accomplish the dreams and the goals that you told me you want to accomplish, I need you to go back to college and make something happen. I mean, college for the first maybe 2 months. And mind you, I have a 5-year-old, and in the middle of a divorce, mind you. And I'm calling Anthony, and I'm literally just bitching my way through the conversation of how things are tough and I don't want to do this. And he looks at me and he's like, did I ever tell you how I got my bachelor degree? I'm like, no. It's like, I never told you that I graduated and got my bachelor degree. That business degree that I post there, I already had my kid before I went for that business degree. So I don't know why you're complaining. People had kid and had a degree. So you being a dad and you working and going through is nothing new. So stop complaining about it and crying about it. You're going to get it done because you're already in it. And I remember I had my daughter Brandon on my lap, my computer on the right. When I was having the conversation with him, he's like, I will see you at work tomorrow. That's all he said. I would just see you at work tomorrow. He didn't even care about all I said. At that time, I kept saying, this guy is just weird. Why won't you just, tell me they're there? You're going to be okay? No. All he told me is that you were not doing anything new. You're not doing anything out of the ordinary. So stop crying about it.
Yeah.
Because you're already doing it. It's just tough right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I told you, I would never ask you to do anything I haven't done before you.
Correct.
Yeah. And the crazy part about it, when I was getting mine, the only reason I went back to get a bachelor's degree, and most people don't know this about me, but I'm a registered nurse by training. I had a 2-year associate's degree in nursing, and I interviewed for a job to work for a pharmaceutical company. I got down to the last 2 people. It was me and the lady. And the guy that was the manager said, I don't see where you got your degree. I'm like, I only have an associate's. He goes, I want to hire you so bad, but that is the minimum standard. You have to have that degree. So I went home and had a pity party for a weekend. And then I decided to change my lot in life by going back to college. And I was working as an intake coordinator, which is like somebody that helped patients get to the house for a home health company. My wife had just had our first child, so my son, Parker, and she was a stay-at-home mom. We had bought a house that we were living in, so I was the primary breadwinner. I was working full time. I needed to go to college to get this degree as fast as I could, and I couldn't make any excuses. And I was taking 16 credit hours a semester as a distance learner with no in-class experience. So I would come home from work and eat my dinner, and I would go up in the loft and rock my son to sleep, feed him, do whatever I had to get done. And I got my bachelor's degree in 16 months. And I got a pharmaceutical job. And with my very first bonus check, I paid off all of my college.
That is awesome, man.
That's impressive. So I will come back to that, but I want Philippe's thoughts on this quote. Well done is better than well said.
Yeah, I think that goes back to pretty much what Jack and Anthony said. Um, I I'm an avid believer in. Have you heard of the 48 Laws of Power? The book.
No, I don't know that one.
Okay. You've said things that pretty much are in the book, but the book is so controversial because of some of the statements that are in the book. They are fairly raw.
Okay.
But one of the things is that in general, in life, what do we say about people that are talented? Like you take Ed Sheeran, for instance. We say God gave him a voice. You know, he was blessed with a voice. And I think on one of the interviews, I'm trying to, okay, don't quote me, the interviews that I watched, he was told that by the host, and he's like, oh, wait a minute. He pulled out his phone, and he played a song, and everybody was like, oh, like crazy, like, who was that? He was like, that was me. That just goes to say, people don't care about the process. Nobody cares about what you've been through, what you've achieved. Like, they don't care. They care about what you're doing now. Are you successful? Have you made it? Have you proved it? And everything else is just glamorous. And they will say, oh, like, oh, this fighter, this MMA fighter, he was just built. No, it all comes down to consistency and discipline.
Yeah.
And you have to work for it. Like you said, don't show me, just show me the baby. That's pretty much it. You show the baby, and everybody applauds, and you go back home and you cry. That's pretty much what happens in the business world. But you are proud because you get vindicated by that baby. Like all of the tears and sweat that you put into the work get shown. And I think so that quote pretty much sums it up. I mean, well done is better than well said, because I mean, I can say a million things and I will never do it, but I just need to do one thing that will get me noticed. Like, I think someone said, what was the quote about being invisible?
Yeah, I know the quote that you're talking about. Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
I will just give you an example of myself. I think I'm still invisible right now, but it is so fun to walk in a room of, like, I'm talking super powerful people and have a chat. They have no clue who I am. It is so refreshing. And then they ask who I am, and I'm like, oh, I'm the person that brought you here together. And they're like, who are you? I'm like, well, I'm just, servant of the people, and that boils to that. And so I can understand where in some leadership position or just in life in general, usually you're nobody until you're somebody, and that switch, it feels like an overnight success, but it never is an overnight success. It's like you think about people that have all of a sudden just blow up, and we see them on TV, we see them everywhere. They've been working 20, 30 years for that. and we never see it. So yeah, show me the baby. I totally am on board with that.
You know, I love that, Jack, because you're absolutely right. You know, and I think I alluded to this when I was introducing Anthony a little bit. I said, you know, everybody can look, you know, they can look at the three of you and say, oh, look at these are successful men, and you know, they must have just always been successful, but they don't know the struggles behind your success. And it's interesting because I actually used this. I think I used it in a video months ago. Warren Buffett is a good example of this. You know, everybody credits Warren Buffett with being this financial genius who was always just a genius and always made great decisions, but he was in his 50s before he saw his first real success. And he was really just using other people's money to build his network. And he's a great example of someone who it's his brain that is his superpower. It is not the money that was behind him. And you know, what is interesting is one of the quotes that I have selected for tonight, I think touches on this. And before I share that quote, I want to go back to the story that Jack and Anthony shared, because I don't know how much I've talked about this, but you know, Anthony, I think you know this. I had the same journey as you know, and you know, Philippe and I both worked for the same company who at a time had a rule that you couldn't rise above a certain financial standard unless you had a college degree. And I bucked against that. I had already reached that standard before the rule went into play. And I was like, to heck with this. I'm not going to do it. I think it's a stupid rule, which I will say they have now turned around and they don't have that rule anymore. But while they had that rule, I told, you know, all my people, I said, well, I can't promote you unless you get a college degree. And they're like, well, where'd you get your degree from?
John, I remember that. I remember when I was shadowing you when Texas was opening, we were like doing all the works, and you're like, wait, okay, well, granted, I had a degree, but I felt like I was nowhere near the people that actually had the experience.
Oh yeah,
that are doing the work. I just felt completely off.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that, so I ended up doing the same thing, Anthony, as I went to night school. I was going to work all day, coming home, spend time with the kids, and we just got a routine down where 8 o'clock was bedtime. As soon as bedtime was over with, I went right to the basement and I was studying until midnight. Yeah. And I will tell you, the greatest thing about my college degree is not the piece of paper. Some of the classes, I'm still friends with some of the professors, but I learned how to type. And because I had to write so many papers. I was a hunt and pecker before, and now I can type with my eyes closed because I had to write so many papers so fast. So that is the greatest thing I took out of college.
Yeah.
You know, that and the work ethic. And Jack, I think that's kind of what the lesson you learned was. I did learn how to get things done under extreme pressure to a very high standard. And so I am grateful for that. So anyway, I wanted to go back and just touch on that because I think that's something that we all kind of share in common. So the next quote I want to pop up on the screen, Philippe, goes back to what you were talking about. Start unknown, finish unforgettable. And this, another quote, if I'm being completely transparent, I picked because of the three of you, because you know, I feel like, you know, outside of Anthony, who was very successful when we all met him, you know, it's the journey that we've been on together, watching each other, you know, kind of win together has been really, really fun for me. And, you know, specifically, it's been a lot of fun for me to watch you guys to grow. You know, Philippe, I remember one time we were all together and Anthony and Jack were teasing you about all the different things that you had going on. And what I've always loved about your friendship is, you know, the three of you have this tight bond that I really admire. And that quote reminds me of the three of you: starting unknown, finishing unforgettable. So, Philippe, since you were the inspiration, I'm going to toss that one back to you. What do you want? What does that quote mean to you?
Yeah, everything, like everything. Think about uh, anything that you want to do in this life, unless you were born into it, nobody knows you. Nobody cares about you. Nobody knew Versace when he was, like a teenager going to high school. Nobody knows you and nobody cares about you. So you will be unknown. And I think a lot of that unknownness or like the privilege of being popular discourage a lot of people. Because at the end of the day, you feel like you're just in your bubble doing something that no one really cares about. Like, okay, let's just bring it back to this generation. Like, you can post something on social media and have 0 likes, like no likes whatsoever. But I can guarantee you, over 2,000 people saw that post. But it will feel like nobody knows you, nobody cares about you until that one breaking point. And it always is the same. It's like on and off. I've spoken with some of the most successful people on this planet, and they will tell you work like everyone is watching. Not like, the saying is dance like no one is watching. They will tell you work like everyone is watching, because guess what? Everyone is watching. And it only takes one person to say, hey, man, I've seen that name 10 years ago. Are they still doing that? Are they still doing something? And all of a sudden, you are the guru because you've been doing it for so long. Or it only takes one thing, like just one string of events to make you known for everything that you've amassed for however long you've been doing it. So I think that code is super valid. You probably will start unknown because that's just the way of life. There are almost 8 billion people on planet Earth now. So if you think today you're just gonna be known to the masses, just think about it. Some celebrity only have 2 million followers, 3 million, 5 million followers. Think about 8 billion and 5 million. There's still a huge gap. So think about celebrity that are still unknown to 8 billion people. And I mean, if you have 1,000 followers, no, you will not be known for a while. But you know what? Keep going. And it may be, sometimes it may actually be, I don't know, 50, 100 years after you're dead.
Yeah.
But if you've done a good job and you stick to it, you will be unforgettable to someone.
There's so much truth to that, because think about some of the authors and the artists that we worship today. During their lifetime, they were nothing. They weren't popular at all. They weren't wealthy, but yet we worship their work today. So that's a really good point. Anthony, you look like you got something to say.
It goes back to that overnight success statement that Bruce talked about. Nobody really had any idea when you were unknown that you were putting in all of this work. Nobody knew that whenever I was doing all that stuff to make the insurance agency unforgettable. They just saw a guy that was in there doing his job every single day, but I was really just trying to be the person everyone deserved. One of the things I would always tell Jack and anybody else that worked for me, if we walk into this job with the heart of a teacher, let's teach everybody what it is that they need to buy. They need to buy it from someone, but if we can tell them something about the product that nobody else does, when it's time for them to make the buying decision, they'll come back and buy it from you. They'll at least know that the other people that are trying to sell them things didn't quite explain it the way that Jack did. That's not how I understood that this coverage worked. So they would naturally gravitate back to you. I felt like an unknown, kind of like Phil, for the longest time. I would walk into rooms and no one knew that I was who I was. The biggest thing that I've always gotten, kind of because of where I was raised, I would say it's not really a matter of heredity. It was more a matter of environment. So when you listen to me speak, I sound like everybody that I was raised around. They sound just like me. But I would go certain places and I would always get the comment, wow, you sound like you're white. And I would always say, well, what do black people sound like? And they would go, and they wouldn't know what to say. So I'm serious, I call on a lot of agents now, and they just get to read my words via email. They get to not see my LinkedIn presence, but get to hear my voice over the phone. So when I travel around the country and I go in to meet them in person, you can always tell they get that look like, you're Anthony Searcy? And I'd always ask, hey, that very first time you met me, you looked really strange when you looked at me. Dude, we did not know what you look like. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't know what we thought, but we didn't think this big guy was going to walk in here and you were going to be the guy. But I'm like, I give everybody the same amount of service. Don't care what you look like, don't care what you sound like. I'm going to treat you the way that I've always wanted to be treated. And hopefully that endears me to you as your representative, as the person that you're going to be buying from. And hopefully I do a good enough job that you'll always come back. The one thing I tell all of the agents that I call on, you're going to run into a lot of people that are going to walk into your office and they're going to say they can write everything that you have. That simply isn't true. There's going to be certain things that I know I can't write, but the things that I will write, I'll do it better and faster than anybody else. And the only thing I'll ever ask you is give me an opportunity to write just one. If I do a good job with one, would you please allow me to do that again? No one's ever told me no. And that's kind of what I hang my hat on every day.
Well, I will tell you, I knew what you looked like from the start. So I don't know if I told you guys this, but every morning on my way to work, I would follow an Omaha bus, and Anthony's picture was on the bus. And and then of course, it worked out for me because I then had a situation where my current agent made me feel uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
so I call Anthony one day, and just by chance, Anthony is that guy's mentor too. And I'm like, this is what he said to me. And Anthony did not believe me. Anthony's like, this is just a crazy customer. Let him stay over there with that guy. So Anthony calls that guy and he's like, did you say this? And the guy's like, yep. And
not good.
He didn't mean it the way it sounded, but
Yeah.
It was like, it was awkward.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I knew what you looked like from the beginning, and but here's what I find interesting is you are not the first black man to tell me that story. And in that today in 2023, it still makes me sad to hear that still happens. But it's I don't know. I don't know what to say about it except that it makes me sad.
Yeah, and growing up with it doesn't bother me anymore. It's just something that people say and they think they have the right to say it. So I'll just let them say it. I befriend everybody that I come across. I try to treat everybody like they're my next door neighbor, like they're the guy that's coming over to ask for a cup of flour. Because until you break my trust and you're no longer worthy of it, it's kind of like credit. I'm going to go ahead and give it to you. It's up to you to take it away from yourself.
Yep. Well, I agree. You do treat everyone like that. So, all right. So, Jack, your thoughts on start unknown, finish unforgettable?
I truly believe that statement describes all of us. We have walked into a lot of unknown, because if I have to tell Anthony life story or Phil life story or my life story, I can say for sure that if I run back Anthony's life, Parker is what 17 now?
Yes, he is.
So let's go back 20 years, 22 years ago. I guarantee you at that time, if somebody met Anthony right at that time, he definitely will be at the point where his life trajectory will be more like, I don't know where you're going, man. I'm not sure if you're going to make it. Same thing. If I run Phil's life back 10 years ago, the same thing is going to be said. And if you run mine 12 years ago before I met Anthony, the same thing will be said about me. Because our life trajectory is based on a lot of unknown. Our belief and people that have been in our life have helped us shape it to that amazing finish. I could have never said that unknown live with us every time. He almost creeps up next to us every time something goes wrong in our life and change our life drastically. I still remember on this screen right now, I'm seeing 3 ex-divorcees, remarried, what at the time had bad credit, didn't know, borrowed somebody's car, didn't have a car to drive, lived in a tiny apartment, no degree. Like everything that happened to us should have put us in a category where, like, yep, this man's gonna end up somewhere bad. But today we are sitting on this round table talking about our accomplishments and things we have done. And we are praising Anthony, but I respect Anthony not because of where he is now. I don't even care about his amazing finish. It's the journey that I truly enjoy, because it reminds me all the time that the unknown is always around. The spirit is that amazing finish. That's the spirit. So for me, I live more on knowing more of those unknown so I can actually focus and kind of anchor myself on that amazing finish. And one thing I've learned through my life is that finish is not even a finish. It's a continuous climb, because once you're somewhere, you're like, you know what? I can do more. I think I can do better. And those unknown creeps in at that time because you want to do more. You want to do better. So that finish is almost what we are chasing till the end of our life.
Yeah, it's true. I'll tell you something, Jack. The one thing that a lot of people would have said about us in the past, because of those things that you said, bad credit, no car, divorcee, just down in the dumps, we were supposed to be statistics. Nobody would ever have said those guys are at the beginning of a success story. There's absolutely no way.
Never.
No.
Yep.
Never.
So,
and this is, go ahead, John.
Well, I just want to throw in there. I will tell you honestly, and I'm gonna dive back to this. I'm gonna tell you a story from 27 years ago after Philipe talks. But I will tell you honestly, the first time I met Jack and the first time I met you, Philipe, I knew, I could see where you were going. And I think I agree with Anthony when Anthony told you he sees where you're going. Like, there was no doubt in my mind, you both had, I mean, you were broadcasting your future self. And so I'm not surprised where you guys have landed, because I saw it day one, the first time I met you. But so go ahead, Philipe.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for me, especially, finishing unforgettable is not a goal. Like, I can finish today and I will be fine with what I've done and what I've achieved, given the time that I've been given. And I think that's one of the beauties of it, because I don't think, unless you are a megastar, I think even if you were a megastar, you couldn't truly judge or appreciate what you've done yourself. Only other people in their hearts can say, oh my God, that person is unforgettable. That person is amazing. Like, they've had this type of impact on me. And that is not up to me to decide or even think that I've made it to that point. And so, like, yes, I know I've started unknown. I'm probably still very well unknown, as my wife tells me. Like, you will see, like, we will walk into events and my wife will stand there, and then sometimes she looks at me and I see that look and she will, like, lean in a little bit and, like, they don't know.
I have no idea who you are.
Yeah, like, literally, they have, and I'm like, you know what? Yes, that's it. But it is one of those feelings where it feels like it is refreshing to me, like personally, because I think being unknown is actually a blessing for some reasons until you get discovered. And you know what? Whenever that happens, it happens. And if it doesn't happen, I'm fine with it because the personal growth that I've had, I feel like I've impressed myself, and that's good enough. And I will keep going. Not that I will stop. I will keep going. But like the second part of the quote, yes, I think that's where most successful people will end, but it's not the final goal. The journey is
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, Anthony, I do have a question for you.
Go ahead.
And Jack, this was inspired by something that you said. So Rachel just said this to me maybe a month ago. She said, you know, we've been together 27 years. And she said to me, did you have any idea when, you know, 20 years ago that people would actually pay you for your advice, pay you for your guidance? And you'd be at this point where you're writing every day and you're sharing your thoughts, and that people are, people are interacting with your content. And I had that moment where I stepped back and I said, no, because when Rachel and I met, I was a completely different person.
Sure.
And Jack, you said this. You said, it falls into the same category. I was doing a lot of things I'm not proud of, things I'm going to have to fess up to my kids someday, because I think, Jack, I know you know this, but I'm in the process of writing a book about my life, about leadership, and I'm going to tie it specifically into logistics. In my branch of logistics, the big and bulky final mile, because no one's done that. But to tell my story, I have to tell these stories, the dumb things that I did. But so my question, Anthony, is, I can look back on myself and say, I came from, poverty, no education, really not going anywhere. If I hadn't joined the Army, my life wouldn't have changed in the direction that I went. And even that, I almost screwed that up. It was really my wife who, and I won't tell the story now. It's another podcast for another day. But there was a pivotal moment in our relationship where I realized how special she was and how lucky I was that she had picked me.
Yeah.
And that I needed to live better and be better. So, Anthony, my question to you is, did you always know, or was there a point in your life too where, as Jack says, you kind of looked around and said, I don't know where I'm going?
Yeah, there was. I was one of these guys that grew up with the idea that one day I was going to be rich. But when you set out with absolutely no plan, written or otherwise, you have no end date and no discernible goals, it's really hard to achieve whatever it is that you're trying to do. And it wasn't until I went through some hardships too. I lost a job when my first wife was pregnant with my first daughter, and I had a house, and it was like, oh my gosh, I've got to do something. And these words that my dad told me once upon a time rang true. He said, there's a difference between having a job and having a career. If you have a career, you can always take a break from being a teacher or a realtor or a lawyer or an IT cybersecurity guy. But if you just have a job, the job is there to keep you doing one thing, and it's an acronym. It's going to keep you just over broke. And boy, that rang true to me. And it wasn't until I decided to get my butt in gear and go back to school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. We thought she was having a miscarriage, and we went to the emergency room. And lo and behold, who took care of us but a male nurse? That one interaction changed the rest of my life, and it made me the man that I am today. The really cool part about that whole story is right when I was almost done with nursing school, we were doing clinicals back at that hospital. And I went down to the emergency room trying to find this guy. And I found him. And I walked up to him and asked him, do you know who I am? And he goes, no, not at all. I said, well, 2.5 years ago, I came in with my wife and we thought she was having a miscarriage. And I had 30 minutes worth of conversations asking you about your job, about your pay, your hours, how long you went to school. And unbeknownst to you, you told me everything. And that little interaction changed the focus of my life. You know, it's like I tell my kids, and everybody goes, "Why are you the way you are?" I said, "Well, I have 4 kids, and I think of my kids as little sailboats." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Bear with me. I think of my kids as little sailboats on the sea." And the one thing that I wanted to explain to my kids is the same wind blows on everybody. The winds of adversity, the winds of despair, the winds of prosperity. But it's not the blowing of the wind that gets you where you're going, it's the setting of your sail. And I have to teach my kids and everybody that I run into how to set a better sail. That's my mission in life.
And it ties right back into the advice you gave Jack earlier. You know, everybody has the same opportunities. So yeah, that's powerful. So Philippe, I just want you to know I saw that and I think that's awesome. I was wondering if you were standing or what was going on. Now I see you got a treadmill down there.
Yeah, and they like to work on it, and yeah, so they came before bedtime. They want to walk before they go to bed. But yeah, fun stuff. I mean, like I think all of you guys said, it's been a journey getting to Ryan stop where we are, and if you think about it, it's just one defining moment that changes everything. And for me, Anthony and Jack can tell you. Okay, I'm gonna turn it on for you. All right, Ayla, stop. Ayla, stop. Ayla. Anyway, it was one defining moment. For me, it was my divorce. You guys remember this?
Oh, yes.
Mhm.
I went from a very stable relationship to having $37 in my name the next day. And I think it was the catalyst for me to say I can take care of myself. Guys, stop, don't fight. Qu'est-ce qu'on dit? Okay, on arrête, bébé. It was it. Okay, Ella, stop. Ella, come up here. Can I talk for a little bit? No.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Good job, Ella. Oh, whew. Yeah. Anyways, it was a catalyst for me to say.
I love this. This is just great. Now he's probably not loving it, but we've all been there.
Oh,
And
big time.
yeah. Yeah, and I think this is great. So what I'd like to say right now is anybody
Okay,
watching the
guys.
video,
Okay, just walk.
he has proven it's okay to have your kids in the house.
Yes.
Okay, they're walking now, so hopefully that keeps them busy.
That is awesome.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that was a catalyst for me to say, like, there is nowhere else to go but up.
Oh, that's great.
Poor Bruce.
Yeah.
All right, Jack, over to you.
So what I would say is one thing I have to remember is I'm not where I used to be. And even when things are dark, it felt like the journey or the vision is getting blurry. I have to remind myself that I've came a long way. I feel like this unforgettable finish is more of a conglomerate of really good moment of accomplishment. Really, really good moments of accomplishment. I remember the first time I was, the first time I was best sales associate of Omaha, of all the State Farm agent sales associate. I still remember the first time I was best agent at Farm Bureau for the year. It's like I hold on to those moments. And every now and then I tell people, I say, I can Google myself. That's an accomplishment. If you type Jack Beguedou today, the first Google page is all me. That's an accomplishment. From magazine appearance to podcasts to everything that I've done in my life. And I take pride into that. It doesn't have to be clear, but I think those small little accomplishments, those little tiny moments that comes together make you unforgettable.
So, Jack, for what it's worth, I take pride in that. I love telling people, I know this guy. This guy's my friend, and I'm proud of you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That is awesome. And yeah, I love that too. I'm like, oh man, I'm like, oh yeah, the sommelier.
I have his phone number.
Yes,
He's
I
my
can
buddy.
call.
You know what? I'm gonna connect you to. I'm gonna connect. So it's weird because it's like this is not where I actually envision myself to be in life at all. But I have gotten into that sweet spot where it's it's like, let's say 3 notches down from where Anthony was when I met Anthony, where literally you can have any question in the world and Anthony will have an answer for him. Like, how do you even know that? How? You're an insurance agent. What? How do you know this?
No. So that has been my life for 3 years. Where Anthony, if one of the best gift he gave me is to be a better conversationalist. I know random facts about so many things for the simple reason that the next person that I may meet in life may bring up a subject. I never listened to AM radio till I met Anthony. Like I'm just gonna listen to it because I never even knew what NPR was. And I'm an immigrant to this country. I didn't know what NPR was till I met Anthony. And I know things about random subject, right? I can tell you everything about, the spirit industry, any alcohol. I can tell you about insurance because those professionally I've learned about. But for you to ask me a random, I think the worst one is when I made it a challenge to start challenging him on random songs. And the day where I'm like, okay, screw this, I need to up my game, is he kept saying these random facts. And I'm like, okay, I have something I'm gonna ask you, and I bet you don't know this. So I played this song, and he looks at me, and he goes, French national anthem. I'm like, how? How do you know this? Because you never been to France. You didn't grow up in the French country. How do you know this? So it made me almost a challenge. I tell everybody, right? If this call or this video fall on your lap, is a perfect example to remind yourself that you need to have people in life that can inspire you. They don't have to be amazing. They just need to inspire you. And when things go right or go wrong, I can puff my chest and say, I have a mentor. I have someone that I can call, and it'll be unapologetically safe and true, and a soundboard to listen to me go off. It could be the worst thing it could be me. I could have murdered somebody. And they were like, do you call the lawyer? I say, no, call me Anthony Searcy first. I need to talk to him. Then I will talk to a lawyer. So it's one of those things is this lesson that finds someone in life that inspires you, challenges you, and keep them close.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to give you anything. They don't have to give you money. They don't have to give, but the fact that they're there for you, that's more than anything you want in your life. Anthony doesn't have no idea about whiskey or anything. But when I brought him in this word, him just telling me, hey, I think you should probably look at it this way. Like, you know what? You keep inspiring me. I'm gonna take that and add on to what I have, and I'm gonna push it in this direction. You just need someone to mentor you. And I hope it's somebody that inspires you, that you admire in life for the little things they do.
That's exactly it. It's like sometimes you get a mentor without setting to have a mentor. It's like one of those things. Like what I was saying, so I got to the point where I didn't have the random knowledge, but I can guarantee you I have not been in any professional, political, government-oriented, nonprofit, whatever it is, where someone brought a subject or a need that they had that I didn't know someone to solve that problem for them. It's become like the random knowledge that Anthony always bestowed on us, where I surprise myself a lot of times where I'll be like a group of 7 different people and we'll be having just conversation, nothing serious. Like I walk into this group feeling like, what am I doing here? Like these are people out of my league. And then they'll bring up subject and like bring up like challenges, and I'm like, oh no, I can solve that for you. Well, if I cannot, I know this one. I mean, this person. And then I click, I connect them, and like it works. And it's like, oh, knowing random shit works.
That's awesome.
It's one of those things, and so I think I became a connector for whatever reason, and it literally comes from you, Anthony.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
I really do. I am humbled by your kind words of all of you guys.
Well,
you did it.
yeah, as we're going through this call, so many moments in the call, I thought, this shouldn't be episode 7. This should be Ode to Anthony. But in being very serious, it is cool how this whole thing came together, because because of you, Anthony, the ripple effect that you've had on the 3 of us has rippled to other people. You took the time with each of us to reach back and help pull us forward, and I can tell you that because of that influence you had on me, I have done that for other people. And and I'll give you an example. And I don't know if you remember this, but Philippe, you'll laugh because I know you'll remember how just politically bureaucratic our former employer was. But Anthony had volunteered to come. He said, hey, I'll come and I'll teach classes on this for free, not asking for anything. I'll just come and teach classes if you guys are open to it. And I took it to a group of people there that we know. I will say we're mutually friends with them, but I'm not. I think you are. Because I took this to them like, hey, I got this guy and he'll come teach our people how to make smarter decisions. And I shared some examples with him, Anthony. I said, I go, here's what he's shown me. He's taught me these things. And because he taught me these things, I'm in a better financial position, or I've made better decisions. And it never came when I was there. It never actually came true. They did years down the road. They ended up bringing in people who did something similar. However, they always wanted something in return. And, and that, so it just like those moments right there where like, you're like, hey, I'll come and I'll do this for free and I'll help you guys. Those are the moments that stuck with me, and that any chance I've had to pay that forward, I've always thought, although my wife says I'm no Anthony Searcy, I'm the photocopy of Anthony Searcy when the photocopier runs out of toner. So
John, I will give you one that is actually similar but almost opposite of what you just said. I've learned the opposite mainly because I've been dabbling in nonprofit.
Mhm.
When the money is not there, unless you specifically ask for it or it is a need that is vital to you, most people will not provide it to you because the money is not there.
Mhm.
But when the money is there, it becomes valuable. It is one of the mind-boggling things in the world because everything that I think all of us have learned from you, Anthony, is invaluable. But you can tell even the homeless person on the street, come here, I will teach you these things that's gonna get you off the street. And
Yes.
guess what? They're gonna walk away from you.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. But go and tell the average business person, I will charge you $10,000 to show you nothing. Like, you know what? They will gladly pay you $10,000.
You
It
know,
is it's the weirdest thing ever.
there's so much truth to that though, because and that's actually what took me down the path of charging for my services. I would set meetings with people all the time to offer for free, and they don't show,
Yeah,
and they didn't put a value on it. So there's a lot of truth to that, to say, sometimes you do have to put a value on something that you'd be willing to do for free.
yeah. And yeah, that's exactly the same thing that led me to teaching with the university. And it's just, if you don't charge for it, for some reason, I think the psychology behind it is that it is not valuable. But those are the best advices and best experiences that most of us have had, is getting something
Yeah.
for free that later on somehow just, it's like, have you learned so many things? Okay, so sometimes even we talk about school, like, oh, we go to school, we learn history, we go to school and we learn math, and then you're working and you're like, I have a degree in history and I'm not using history in supply chain, or like I have a degree in math. Today, I was having that thought. I was like, why did we have to learn all of these things? And then one example came to mind was a job that I've seen. It has nothing to do with history. It has nothing to do with like what you learn in school, but the position was a country, like a foreign country specialist. That was the position. Nothing to do with history, but if you dig into it, you have to learn the history of that country to be able to get that job. Things that you don't think about, you will not even fathom. But if you have the knowledge and the opportunity shows up, your mind connects the dots.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we, most of the time, haven't had the opportunity to connect the dots. And so we think everything that we've learned is useless, but I can guarantee you it is not. Knowledge is knowledge, and you will always use it.
Yep. So I think what I heard there is all of Anthony's knowledge or useless facts have value.
Yeah. At some point, they may not reveal themselves right away, John. Sometimes they have to mature and fester for a little while.
Yeah. Yep. And then you just have that moment. You're like, that's what Anthony meant.
That's what he meant. That crazy guy.
So
I've,
guys,
I've,
go ahead, Anthony.
I was just going to say, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Same here. That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm just grateful that you made the time for me today. This has been really fun. It took me back to Omaha, to Anthony's office, and I hope that we can do this again, Jack. I would love to get together and sip some whiskey with you. And what I will say is, when I make it back to Omaha to visit the family, we can absolutely do it in person as well. But thanks, guys. I'm super grateful, and I just want to do one last round. If you guys have anything else that you want to add or that you would like anybody watching to know, Anthony, I'll start with you, sir.
Whether it's insurance, whether it's inspiration, anything that I can do to help anyone, please let me know. If you got nothing else from this call, the guy that you see before you right now is the guy that's going to be there forever. And I'm willing to help anybody do anything. You can call me. My number is 904-801-1236, or send me an email, Anthony S. as in Sam at maxib.com.
Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
Jack?
Your employees don't want the next speaker to just come in and tell them how they can be better employees. They need someone who can actually entertain them, teach them, give them a little bit of alcohol, loosen them up, and have a good time. So
I've been hydrating.
looking for someone who can actually help all your corporate event or your corporate outing, reach out to me. hoodsommelier@gmail.com. That's HOODSOMMELIER@gmail.com. Send me an email for your next corporate event. Get your employees to have a good time safely with an expert that can teach them something new for their next conversation with your clients.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bruce?
Yeah, I would say, especially if you are in Nebraska, please go on 50over50ne.com, nominate someone that is over 50 years and still doing great things in the community, whether it be business, innovation, nonprofit, healthcare, community. Just nominate them. You can also nominate the youngest, because this year I've started at 20, under 20, mainly because, well, 50 over 50 came about because the Forbes list of age range, 40 under 40 and whatnot. And in Nebraska, 40 under 40 has been the only event. But if you think about it, there are people that are over 40 that are still doing great things in the community. And they've gone unnoticed for way too long. And I'm glad to have brought about some light on people still doing great things. It doesn't mean you turn 40 and you just fall off the face of the earth. And most of the leaders in the community are actually over 50. And I'm now trying to connect that cohort, the alum of the 50 over 50, with the younger generation, where the younger generation can have the support of the leaders, like the people that are actually doing the things that they want to do when they grow up in the community, and connect those two generations to where we don't have a lot of gaps. So please, if you want to support that cause, do that. And I will also take your money, because that's one thing that I'm lacking, is funding for some of these programs. I've actually created a leadership mentoring program that is supported by the university, and they will fly people from all across the country and all across the world to teach you skills that you actually need in the real world. These are real world practitioners, not just a professor in school. They're doing it for a living. And while you're doing that, you can literally pick up a phone and call a senator, call the governor's office, literally anyone that we have branched out with through this program. You can call them for advice, and I think that is invaluable. So if you have the budget for leadership development or mentoring programs, please reach out. Again, the organization's name is The Block, is BLOC. You can find us online at communityblock.com, community block without K.com, or you can look up the 50over50.com as well. It will lead you to the same place. And yeah, we would like your support. And if you have any advice, if we do something wrong, I'm open to criticism as well, because that's the name of the game, right? Changing and evolving. So reach out with whatever you like to talk about. And again, you may be surprised how many people just solve the problem that you have.
Nice.
Appreciate that, sir. And I will put all the links that we've talked about in the comments of this video on YouTube, also on the social media sites that is shared. And gentlemen, I would absolutely encourage you to share the video with your networks as well. And if you're watching this and you're connected to me, or you're connected to any of these gentlemen and you're not connected to any of these gentlemen, please connect. That's really what this is all about, is bringing the world together and making it a smaller place. Gentlemen, I'm very grateful for the time that you gave me tonight. Really more grateful for the laughs that you've given me, not just tonight, but over the years. And I value your friendship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a fantastic evening.